Javed, as we just witnessed, South Korea, Japan, and China are making new deals to counter American tariffs. Tell us about the new tariffs that have been imposed by the Trump administration, and how are these countries countering those tariffs? Tell me more about this alliance.
Well, I think Donald Trump last night came out with a sweeping tariff against enemies and against friends. I mean, he made no distinction. China has been hit hard. I mean, it's just 34. It's not just 34%. Going by the previous tariff, it's a 54%, and it's a one slab. And another slab is, if you look at some of the Chinese companies who wanted to invest in the USA, I think the tariff rate is a 70%. So the very core purpose of these tariffs, let me just first focus on the China. Very core purpose is China, to contain China economically, politically. Now China's export to the USA, it's around about more than 550 billion US dollars. It's a huge export. And US export to China, it's around about 152 billion US dollars. Obviously, the trade balance is in favor of China. China is going to suffer. China doesn't want a trade war with the USA. China's policy has always been that it wanted to slowly, gradually beat US economy. Now the Americans have realized it, and they are coming up with a kind of the policy that is a kind of what Donald Trump calls it a hard reset. I think this is going to backfire in the long run. Immediately, there may be some gains. Immediately, he may be able to tell the American people that he's doing something different. But I think at the end of the day, it is going to bring more recession in the USA. Now, coming back to your question, which is extremely important. Options left with the Japan and the South Korea, which, I mean, at least these two countries have been very close ally of the USA from the World War II. Now look at how the US is behaving with their close allies. Forget about China. China has been its rival. It's a 25%, 20% tariff have been increased onto these countries. One of the leading sources of the South of Japan has been this manufacturing industry. They've been exporting cars to the USA and to the rest of the world. Now, by imposing heavy tariff, means it is going to hit Japanese economy. And in a similar fashion, it also goes for South Korea. China and Japan, who have been rivals, there have been wars between China and Japan. But because of these survivability economically, they have now gone with what appears to be now, I think it's in the making, they're going to have a free trade agreement, which means now the Asian economy is going to have more focus within the Asia, not to the US destination. And in a similar fashion, we have also President Donald Trump has imposed tariffs onto the Europe. Europe, by and large, has been it's a geo-strategic partner in the NATO fold, and also in a broader picture, when we talk about West, it's the Europe, and by and large, it is Europe and the USA. Now Europe is basically shocked. The Britain and the other countries are thinking that if they retaliate in a similar fashion, what does it mean? It means that we are going to lose. China is also very cautious because China is going to come up with some kind of retaliatory measures. But again, China is cautious because in the short term, it is going to lose. Now, again, I have to let me unfold some geostrategic landscape in the world. Right now, the BRICS is not very active. Donald Trump doesn't want BRIC to come up with its own currency. Donald Trump doesn't want that the third world countries or the Asian countries, big economies like India, like Japan, like China, Saudi Arabia, they don't want these countries to have trade in their local currencies, because that is going to kind of a setback to the US dollar. There are clearly indications, and the US, there are indications, they are telling, the Washington is now telling to the world that they are going to devalue US dollar because they want to attract more and more investment from outside the USA. So in that broader context, I think to begin with, it is going to cause a recession in the USA. The world outside the USA, I think there would be problem for the short term, but I think in the long run, now China will have to open new avenues, and I think its destination is going to be Europe. Europe at this particular point of time is reluctant, it wants to behind the scene, or otherwise renegotiate with the USA. Will that work? Or will that doesn't work? But I think that is not going to work. And at the end of the day, European countries individually are going to open their economy to the China, which means this is going to accelerate, hasten the political and economic downfall of the USA in matter of years. I think by 2030, there are some estimates, economists are saying that maybe Chinese currency would be the leading currency in the world, and the dollar's trade is going to further reduce. The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.